and welcome back to Tea Time with Naomi, with me, Naomi, and my customary cup of tea. So welcome to my January wrap-up. January for me was probably my best reading month ever, like hands down ever. It was just phenomenal. I loved it. So I read a total of 8 books in January, which has just blown my mind. I never thought I'd be able to do that. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of myself. And even though some of the books are short, that doesn't matter. I still read 8 books and I'm really hoping that I can do the same this month. So the first book I read in January was The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Jen Campbell. And this is the perfect way to start off 2019. It is spooky, eerie, interesting, a little gross, just beautiful in its imagination and wording, and I really enjoyed this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was such a perfect little book to start off with. I really enjoyed it. There were so many beautiful quotes in it. I kind of sped through this. I think 1 day or 2 days I read it in bed, and I think if you really want like a nice, easy but kind of transporting book to read before bed, I would definitely go with this. It is a collection of short stories which are whimsical, magical and spectacular. Like just the blurb, it says stories of family and magic, lost souls and superstition, spirits and jam jars, mini apocalypses, animal hearts and sideshows. The next book I read meant a lot to me, and that was a collection of poetry called Honeybee by 𝚑𝚎𝚘𝚘. Now this is the story of a bisexual woman, and she speaks about breakups when you're still in love. You know, we've all had breakups, and some of us have had to break up with someone or be broken up with when we're still in love, and that's difficult. It's really hard to take a hard look at your relationship and say to yourself, this person is not good for me anymore, this is not good for me. And 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘 really explores that in this novel. She also explores being bisexual and how if you are with someone of the opposite sex, then that completely eradicates your sexuality. You know, if there's a bi woman with a man, it's like, oh, but she's straight now, and vice versa. And that's honestly not how it works. If you're bi, you're bi. If you're pan, you're pan. Regardless of who you're with at the time, regardless of the sex or gender of your partner, if you are bisexual, you know, you're bisexual. So please, if anyone wants to like read up about, if you kind of want an insight into bisexuality, or if you've just had your heart broken, or if you feel that you need to do what I'm guessing 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘 did and break up with someone you love, this is a beautiful poetry book. And even if you don't want to do any of those things, just please read it, because not only is the cover beautiful, but the words are so beautiful too, and they're all in different kind of formats. Some are quite long, some are quite short, and my favourite are these almost scribbles and doodles, which I've just felt I really connected with the author when seeing those. And there are also, if I can find them, beautiful like photo imprints of flowers, which I just adore because I love flowers. And the quote from this page is, I still have a lot of growing to do, and I know there is more room for it in your absence. Beautiful, heartbreaking, true, and just inspiring. I adored this. I think I read it in an hour or 2 because I was just I'm so happy I picked this up, and I'm honestly gonna probably try and reread this every year and just treasure it. And when I really need to pick me up, and when I just really need to feel, when I need to feel something, I'm going to be reading this poetry collection. It's probably my favourite poetry collection I've read to date, and while I do need to read more poetry, I think it's going to take a lot to knock this off my top place. So the third book I read in January was the last in the modern fairy tale series by Holly Black, and that is Ironside, and I adored this. I again read this in I think like 24 hours. It was fantastic. I really wanted to finish this before The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King and all those, because I remembered that 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘 appears in The Cruel Prince, which I didn't realise my first time reading it, so I was like, I have to find out everything that happens to 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘 before I reread The Cruel Prince and delve into The Wicked King. So this is the last one, as I said, and it is kind of like the wrap up of this story to this point. You kind of explore more about them later on in the 𝚑𝚘𝚗𝚝 series, but for now this was the final. And yeah, this gave me like so much anxiety. I was like, no, like at so many points I was like, no, this can't be happening, like this isn't real, like come on Holly Black, you wouldn't do this. But as we all know after reading The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King, she would. This is a fantastic book. We see a lot more of Connie in this, and I liked him even more in this book. And the one thing I really love about all her books is their inclusivity. So there are POCs and there are LGBTQ plus characters, which is phenomenal, which I really love. And I think there needs more of it in fantasy. This, you know, contemporary's kind of catching up now, slowly but surely, and I think Holly Black is paving the way for fantasy. And if you have any recommendations of fantasy books that include LGBTQ plus characters and POC characters, please do comment in the section below, because my library is in desperate need of more. You know, Holly Black's work is full of fantastic quotes. I think one of my favourites from this book was, "Perhaps like great pain, great loveliness must be forgotten." Just fantastic. And the one thing I really loved about this trilogy was how the first two books were completely separate from each other for the most part. They alluded to each other, but they are about different characters and different story arcs, and I loved how they tied together in this. And I think there needs to be more of that in trilogies, because I really enjoyed two different stories coming together, and I think it's a way to include a lot of different kinds of people into one story and entice different kinds of readers, because one person might prefer, say, Valiant over Tithe or Tith, and vice versa, but you're all brought together and you all enjoy the last one together. So yeah, fantastic. I'm so glad I picked all three of these up at a library sale, and I'm gonna reread them again probably next year because I really enjoyed them, especially this last one. It's become my favourite. And one of my favourite reads from January, I think. Although another one of Holly Black's books is going to beat this out the top, and you're all going to know what it is. So the next book in my January reads was The Cruel Prince. So I needed to reread this, and I bought the North American version because it has the wonderful cover on the front, which the UK edition does not have. So my UK edition is just all black. There is nothing on it, which is really unfair and makes me a little bit sad. Like, come on British publishers, why is there nothing on this? Because the hardcover on this is stunning. As you all know, I just love this book. It is one of my favourite books ever. I think it was definitely one of my top 2 favourite books of 2018, and I would probably include it in my favourite books of 2019, but because I included it last year, I feel that's a bit unfair for the books coming up. But as everyone by now, or most people by now, know this story. It is about Jude and her sister Taryn and Phoebe. Their parents are murdered by her mother's ex-husband, who is Faye. And Jude and Taryn, being full model, have to kind of find their way in a world in which they do not belong. And Jude unfortunately catches the eye of the cruel and heartless Prince Carden. This is a beautiful book full of strong female characters. And Jude is so badass. She is flawed, she is strong, and I just adore her. She's probably one of my favourite female characters of all time, and I just want to be her friend. I want to give her like the biggest cutch and be like, girl, it's fine, I'm with you, you got this. But if you're really curious about The Cruel Prince, I would definitely read this. I also really love Maddox, and I know it's such a controversial topic, but I really love him. And yeah, it's a great book. I can't gush about it enough. I've spoken about it plenty of times by now, so I'm just gonna like put this down and move on. So the next book I read was The Lost Sisters by Holly Black, which is a book that comes between The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King, and it is a kind of explanation as to behind why Taryn did what she did, and it's a shit explanation. I think that's what Holly Black intended. I don't think she really intended for sympathy to be given to Taryn, and if she did, it was probably like the smallest amount. Like, I had like this much sympathy for Taryn, and it kept getting smaller, and it kind of diminished itself in The Wicked King. But it is a really really good read, and I think if you love the Cruel Prince and the Wicked King, I would definitely read it, because it does twist the story on its head a little bit for the Cruel Prince, and it makes you see it in a different way. And once I reread the Cruel Prince this time, I'd already read the Lost Sisters last year, so I was noticing everything again, and I was like, yes, of course, why didn't I see this the first time reading it? Which is always such a good experience, and I don't normally reread books, but I had such a positive time rereading The Cruel Prince and The Lost Sisters that I'm definitely gonna make that a trend of my favourite books. The next book I read actually was not The Wicked King, it was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. So I read this on the plane and a little bit when I got back to Wales, and I really enjoyed this book as far as storytelling goes. I thought the world was fantastic. So it is a story of Alina, who is an orphan. I don't know how to explain it. She's an orphan and she is drafted in the military in this world, but a secret comes about and she learns something about herself that kind of pushes her more into a more opulent, magical world than the one she has grown up in and the one she is used to, and kind of strains ties with people she knew before. It was a very interesting book. I really enjoyed the premise. I think the world was very interesting, and how Leigh Bardugo made the military and how she kind of fashioned that, and I really enjoyed the almost Slavic inspirations. I read this really fast, and I think that's because the story is quite fast paced, which I enjoyed, and I quite like the brevity of it. It is only 300 and something pages if I'm not mistaken. Yes, which I quite enjoy. You know, a lot of fantasy books are quite long, but this was quite brief and I really enjoyed that because it was more of a quick paced read. I gave it a 3-star, and it was only a 3-star because I felt the characters needed more development. I felt the characters fell short, and I feel like she can do better. I have faith that Leigh Bardugo can do better. I think this was like her first book ever, and I know this was written a long time ago, so I have given that a little bit of consideration, and times have changed. There's a little bit of like girl on girl hate in this book, which made me uncomfortable. It kind of makes sense because Alina grows up in a very male-centric, very patriarchal society, very patriarchal world, and she doesn't really have many female friends, so I understand that she's very skeptical of women, and in a way it's a kind of like a good reflection of how society wants women to view each other, and I'm hoping this changes, and I'm hoping that is a theme that Leigh Bardugo did on purpose, and I'm hoping that she's going to change that more in the next 2 books, and I'm hoping that Alina's going to grow, because I think she has the potential to be a good character, even though I know a lot of people really, really hate her. I enjoyed the cliffhanger at the end of the book. I feel like Karma's probably going to bite Alina on the ass, but yeah, I'm very excited to read the second too, and I can't wait to start them. All through the month I've also been reading 𝚑𝚘𝚑 by Madeline Miller, and I really enjoyed this. It was my first ever fiction novel on audiobooks, and I'm so glad I decided to get it. I've been dying to read 𝚑𝚘𝚑 for a while, and I was in Canada and I was alone in the house, and I felt really ill this one day and I really wanted a bath, so I lit a candle, I made tea, I turned most of my lights off and just had some lamps, and I went to read my book, and I just thought, I can't read, like my eyes are tired, I might have a headache, I feel sick. So I decided, why didn't I try a fiction audiobook? And I got Madeline Miller's 𝚑𝚑𝚑. Not only is the narrator, like, her voice is so beautiful, I could just fall asleep listening to it, which is kind of dangerous when you're in the bath, come to think of it. But the story is so exciting that I just kept listening and listening and listening. I adored this book. It was so beautiful, like the words are so fantastic. As an aspiring author, I just ate this up. I was like, please God, let me be able to write this beautifully, please, please, please. Please, because yeah, it's just stunning. I wish I had like the physical copy to be like, this is my favorite line, but I sadly do not. Maybe in the future I will opt to getting it and try reading it as a physical copy and see how that changes my experience reading it, of the story. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very interesting, educational. I've definitely learned a lot about Greek mythology and the characters that appear in Greek mythology, so I'm very happy that I read it, and I'm very keen to read her other book. I think it's called Song of Achilles, I believe. So yeah, if you haven't read it, I would definitely give it a go. I didn't finish it as soon as I wanted, but yeah, and I'm actually not quite finished. I have like a couple of percent left, but because I mainly read it in January, I'm like counting as my January read book because I want to. And my last read of January, my favourite read of January, was The Wicked King by Holly Black. Excuse the tabs. So I started tabbing these really cute small tabs, if you can see. And then my baby cousin, who's also my godson, who I babysit, decided he liked the sticky tabs and wanted to play with them. And he was having so much fun, I didn't have the heart to stop him. So in the end, I was just ripping off sticky notes, like the pads, and like just sticking them in and underlining. I put off reading this book all month. I had it, I think, like the day after release, and I just couldn't start it. I was so nervous. I loved the Cruel Prince so much, but I was like, I can't do it. Like, what if it's ruined? Like, what? I don't know. I just get anxious because I'm like, what if the story is ruined? I should have had more faith in Holly Black. I should have had more faith that she would just obviously hit the nail on the head again and just make this one even better. It did break my heart so much more. But I'm so, like, how am I supposed to wait for the third book? How am I supposed to wait for The Queen of Nothing that comes out next year? How am I supposed to wait? Like, Holly Black, please, 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 don't wait until 2020, please. So this is the continuation of 𝚑𝚘𝚗'𝚝's story, and it is a fantastic one. I'll try not to include any spoilers. So basically, Jude keeps being Jude. Jude keeps being Jude. 𝚑𝚗 kind of keeps being 𝚑𝚗. He grows. There's so much character growth in this book, and I really enjoy it for that. Holly Black is like the master of character growth, and I'm really excited to see how the two change again in the next book and all the other characters along with it. A couple of things happened that I didn't expect, and a couple of things I thought would happen didn't. I'm not going to go into those because I don't really want it to be a spoiler, but all I can say is, again, such a beautifully written book, and Holly Black honestly gets better at writing with each book. With each book, her talent just skyrockets, and I think she is now my favourite author. Like, I think she might have replaced Louise O'Neill as my favourite author, which I feel kind of like upset saying. I don't know, I feel kind of guilty saying it, but Holly Black has just captured my imagination like no other author has. Like Margaret Rogerson, I feel like she knows the books that I love. Like, I feel like she has seen inside my soul and knows what books that I need in my life, and she has presented me with these books. And yeah, I also, the cover of this one, I love how every book, every hardcover on the American or the North American edition has kind of like a clue, like a theme. So the first one was roots, so I think that's like earth. This is obviously sea, and I'm wondering if the next one's going to be air. Like, that's my theory. And I've noticed that at the start of the books, I feel like there's, on the map, I feel like there's an inkling to what's coming next. So in the first book, there was a mermaid on the front of the map, and this time there's like a fawn, although he was in the book actually. He was in the book, but maybe there's a clue here to the next one, because there was a lot of sea themes on the first one with the mermaid. So I'm wondering if there's more of a, if it's like a hint. Who knows? I might be talking absolute shit, but we'll see. We'll see when The Queen of Nothing comes out. But I just, yeah, I really enjoyed that she took the world to the Undersea this time as well, because you get to explore a different part of the Fae world, which I don't believe belongs to Eltham. I think it's his own, like, what am I looking for? Its own territory. And I really enjoyed that we got to like explore different characters that were only alluded to. I love that Royburn came back. And also I think Severin, is a character from another one of her books, which I didn't realise until reading this. I was like, wait. They mentioned something about being in a glass cage, in a glass like coffin. And I was like, wait, that's the premise of another book, which I haven't read, which I've been dying to get hold of, but I haven't been able to find in many of my libraries or bookshops. So I'm going to have to try and get that somewhere. But yeah, this is amazing. I want to reread it. I've been screaming about it on Twitter for like the last 2 days, and I've actually met so many, I've like talked and met to so many booktubers, because I literally was like, if you read The Wicked King, please DM me because I'm screaming. I need to talk to somebody about it. And I've actually talked to like a couple of people. And yeah, thanks guys for talking to me. Honestly, you know who you are, and I'm so relieved that I had someone to gush about this book with and someone to like scream about this book with, because my partner Chad doesn't really read and he hasn't read The Cruel Prince, although he's promised he will, which makes me so happy. But so I couldn't like rant to him about it because he hasn't even read the first one, so he obviously doesn't know what happens here and I don't want to spoil it, but I was like, I need to scream with someone about this book. So that's it from me guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please do subscribe and press the like button. I hope that the new setting isn't too disorientating, and this is my first ever wrap up video, so I feel like I rambled a lot. I'm not sure how much to reveal when talking about books. If you have any pointers, please do let me know down below. I'm always keen on constructive criticism. But yeah, that's it from me for today. I have a busy day ahead of me, so I'm gonna head off now. But it's been great, and I will see you guys soon. Bye! Love you! There's nothing like a good cup of tea on a snowy morning, because yes, it is snowing in Wales today. But by snow I mean like, well, where we are there's not much. I'm sure there is in the mountains, but it's enough to be